Welcome, 5th grade social studies scholars, to another Passport to Social Studies video. My name is Mr. Giordano, and I will be your teacher for today. Today, we will be looking at our Unit 3, Day 1 lesson, focused on the United States as a case study. The topic of our lesson is launching the unit, United States of America case study. Our focus question is, how do key forces and events shape a nation? And our learning objective is to analyze patriotic songs to determine what Americans value. Today, we will be launching our United States case study unit. During this case study unit, we will not be looking at all of American history. Rather, we will focus on westward expansion in the 1800s, and we'll also look at the civil rights movements of the last 50 years. One theme throughout the unit will be to examine American culture. Today, we will begin to better understand America by looking at and listening to patriotic songs. We will be working in groups to create a found poem using very patriotic songs. Okay, everyone, let's get started. As mentioned earlier, today we will be starting our next unit on the United States of America, and we will not be studying all of America. You're going to continue to dive deeper into American history as you move into middle school. For now, we are going to focus on the 1800s, westward expansion, and examine issues of civil rights and economics in our times. One theme that will run through everything we study will be the idea of American culture. In order to launch our unit, it will be useful to see what Americans think of themselves. For example, let's take a look at the lyrics in this excerpt from the famous patriotic song, America, My Country, 'Tis of Thee. The excerpt says, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring." Now let's listen to one of the greatest singers of all time, Aretha Franklin, sing America, My Country, 'Tis of Thee. And as you listen to her rendition of this beautiful song, you can write down some of your responses or your feelings and thoughts in the blue box in your Passport to Social Studies slides. Let's take a listen.
Treated of the sweet land of liberty, for thee I sing. And when my father died, and
Okay, social studies scholars. So that little clip of Aretha Franklin's rendition of America, My Country, 'Tis of Thee really shows the passion that she has behind this song and the importance of this song in bringing people together, especially as it's performed at Barack Obama's inauguration ceremony in Washington, D.C. That song was written almost 200 years ago in 1832. So some of the important words that you might have heard in the song or viewed in the excerpt earlier may have been land of liberty, freedom, and pilgrim's pride. You also might have been feeling different things as you listen to the song, and the writer of this song is purposely trying to evoke different emotions and different feelings in the viewer of the song. So the writer is trying to evoke pride in America and in the history of our country. The writer is also trying to help the viewer visualize the country and reminisce on our past. By using the words like land of liberty, pilgrim's pride, and freedom, the author is trying to describe America as a good place that he loves. A lot of songs read almost like poetry. Today, we are going to make poems out of song lyrics. We will look at patriotic songs and see what their essential or most important ideas are. When you make a found poem, you use words and phrases from a text and rearrange them. You don't have to necessarily use all of the words from the original excerpt in order to make the new poem. The new poem could have the same theme or message as the original, or a completely new one. Let's take a look at an example of this on the next slide. The original text that we looked at earlier in the slides is "My country, 'tis of thee." And you can see on the left, there's certain words circled in blue that have been used in the new found poetry. The new found poetry is a new original poem using some of the same ideas and phrases found in the original text. The new found poetry says, "My father sings of the land. I sing of my father who let freedom ring. The pilgrims did not let freedom ring. The land had pride and died. Liberty died for my father died for liberty." You can see in the example that the words are almost the same. And again, it's okay to add some connecting words to your found poetry, like "the" or "of," and to change the endings of some words, like going from pride to "had pride." And even though the words are almost the same between the two poems, the new found poem has a completely different message. So take a moment to ask yourself, what do you think the message of this new found poem is? You can discuss this with your group, or you can reflect on this independently. So let's take a look at our question. How are the messages of the original version and the new found poem different? Well, the original version of "My Country, 'Tis of Thee" describes America as a good place and makes the viewer feel pride in the country. However, the new found poem has a very different message. It describes the country as a place that had freedom and liberty, but lost it once the pilgrims arrived. It may be referring to the indigenous people or the Native Americans who lost their freedoms to the pilgrims. It refers to a father who died trying to hold on to that liberty that was taken away from him by these Europeans, claiming the land and the country as their own. So we can certainly see how these two poems, with very similar words, have two very different messages. For today, you will read one patriotic song and select a number of words or phrases from the original lyrics and then use them to create your own new found poem. As you're working on this activity, you want to think about, what is the original song saying about America, and what do you want your new poem to say? If you need to, you can add a few small words or change the endings of a few words, but try to stick to using the same words from the original text. And these are the songs that you will be looking at, the original text that you'll use to then create your found poems. And these consist of various patriotic songs from our country's history, such as "America the Beautiful," "This Land is Your Land," "Battle Hymn of the Republic," "God Bless America," "You're a Grand Old Flag," and "America, My Country, 'Tis of Thee." So now that you've been assigned your song for your group, or if you're working on this independently, possibly choosing your own, here again are the steps that you're going to work on to complete your assignment. Step one is that you're going to read your song. You can take turns in your group, or again independently, finding a website and listening to the song as you read the lyrics. You can discuss what the general idea of the song is. What is its general message or theme? Next, for step two, you want to start choosing words that you will use in your found poem. You can choose words that you think are meaningful to the message of the poem. You can choose a method such as taking turns in your group, going through the poem and choosing words together, or everyone in your group can individually choose 5 to 10 words and then agree on the ones that you think that have been chosen by more than one person, and then you all agree and have it come to a consensus on using in your new found poem. Finally, for step three, as a group, You want to begin to rearrange your words to make a new poem. And you also want to have an important discussion about the message of your new poem. Do you want to keep the message the same as the original song, or do you want to change the message in some way? It's also important to consider using roles in your group work today to ensure that everybody is on task and completing the activity together. Here are some roles you might want to use in your group work today, such as a typer, which is the person that would create the Google Doc for your group and share it to all your group members and your teacher. This person will then type the found poem. You can also want to ensure that you have a presenter, a person who's going to present and explain your group's found poem during our whole class share out following the completion of the activity. A reflector who is going to lead the group in answering the 3 reflection questions on the next slide after you complete your found poem. A facilitator who will share their screen during your small group time and play the audio of the song they may find on YouTube. This person will then ask the group members to individually share 5 to 10 words that resonated with them in the chat that you may want to use in your found poem. And then last but not least, the chat monitor, who can then take a look at those 5 to 10 words shared by each person in the chat and conduct a vote to come to an agreement or a consensus on the ones that you will all use together in your shared poem. And finally, this chat monitor can also share out the finalized found poem in the chat while the presenter is explaining it to the entire class during the whole class share out. So again, these are roles that you may want to consider today as you're working in your groups. Finally, here are the 3 reflection questions that you're going to complete when you are finished creating your found poem. And when you're all done with your shared poem, you're going to then be ready to share it out with the whole class. And as you do that, you want to think about, as you listen to all the presentations today, do you see any common themes becoming apparent across the songs or across the newfound poems? And are there any words that reappear in these songs? Finally, you want to ask yourself, do the found poems have different themes, right? What are the different messages of these found poems? And if so, what are these themes? Okay, social studies scholars, excellent job today completing your found poem and preparing it for your whole class share out. Great work. I will see you next time, and happy learning.